Well, greetings, folks. We are live. Welcome to episode 3527 of the Survival Podcast. Today's episode is called Where's Biden? Listener questions and more. This is really going to be like two shows jammed into one, like two mid-sized podcasts into one big one. The entire first half will be somewhat political. We're going to talk about, well, where the heck is Joe Biden? Yes, he dropped out of the race, but where is he? We haven't seen from or heard from him. There's a weird way that he went out. Some people are saying the guy might be dead. I don't think so. I don't think it's that bad, but maybe close. We're going to talk about Kamala becoming the nominee because I got a ton. My email box is just wrecked with that this morning. We're going to talk one more time real quick about stop it. Please stop it with Michelle Obama. It's not happening. I've told you it's not happening. I told you last year it wasn't happening. I told you the year before it wasn't happening. I told you leading up to the 2020 election it wasn't happening. Can we please stop this? We're going to talk about some of the stupid on the assassination attempt getting worse. And I'm talking about the people that think they're, truthers of this event. And some of the nonsensical, let's try to recreate the JFK assassination here. Let's find the second shooter, the third shooter, the 19th shooter, etc. Shooters everywhere, everybody missed. And we're going to ignore geometry and some other stupid shit. But then we're going to talk about the stupid shit inside the Secret Service that's even worse than when I covered this on Monday. And I got a whole laundry list of shit that have happened that just makes you go, what the hell? What the hell? Then we're going to turn a corner. We're going to talk about some homesteading topics and things like that. I don't want this all to be politics. So I've got like 5. I got a question on Azolla and growing it in kiddie pools. At one point, does government tyranny cross over to where we actually do something outside the conventional? I have to be careful how I phrase that. But I'll give you some basic thoughts on it. How to teach a rooster to not be a dick. I've got a young rooster right now. No spurs yet, but he is going to be a big bird. This guy's going to be 12 to 14 pounds when he's done growing. He'll probably have spurs about 1.5 inches long. Obviously, I don't want him to be a dick with me, and I really don't want him to do it with my grandkids. So I'll talk about how I'm doing that with a young bird and what you can do if you didn't treat a young bird this way and you have an older bird that's being a dick. Sometimes none of it works, and then the solution is a crock pot, and that's just an honest reality. And we're going to talk about another kids pool question, but this one on a guy's using it for his kids. He would like, it's basically like 200 gallons. It's probably a stock tank is what I'm getting out of it. And his kids use the pool like as a swimming pool. Like, instead of a little crappy kiddie pool like the one on the Azolla question's about, you get like a 400-gallon stock tank, 6-foot round. Kids can hang out in there and have fun in the summer. And if you don't want to spend the money on a big pool, you drain it and put it away for the winter. Do something else with it. And, but he's like, I would like to not have to fill it up every 2 days, and I would like to be able to use the water for irrigation. And if I use chlorine, won't I mess up my ear? It's a lot simpler than that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. And final question. This is one I get quite a bit, and I only talk about it here and there because I don't want to become the Keto podcast or the carnivore podcast. But person's on keto, says they're doing it right, not losing weight, what to do to get unstuck. So we're going to have a ton of variety today. And we do have somebody in the live stream, Richard, saying we have 114 watching, only 31 likes. You better get on it, man. Rachel will be here. I'm showing 133 people watching, but that could be from multiple sources cobbled together. But please like and share what we're doing here, and so we can reach as many people as possible. For a lot of members of this audience that have been listening a long time, I hear things like, this podcast changed my life. Please share that with others so we can reach out and change as many lives as possible, awaken people, etc. Before we do that, let's go ahead and hear from our sponsors of the day. Sponsor of the day, number 1 today, is someone who can help you change your life by making better investment decisions. Whether you get in touch with him directly for that, with his investment management side of his business, or just check out his podcast. That, of course, is John Pugliano. John has been working with the Survival Podcast one way or another since 2010 when I first met him. He's an incredibly amazing man, totally stand-up guy, the kind of guy that would give you the shirt off his back if he thought you needed it. He's just that kind of guy. He's also really smart, switched-on investment advisor. John has been in this field for about the entire time that I've been working with him as a professional. But what he did before that, he was an Army officer. he got out and he was in more of a engineering space, and he took up investing, and he made himself into a liquid millionaire before he started taking other people's money and investing it on their behalf. In other words, he didn't answer an ad in the Sunday paper for American Express or Edward Jones and go to school for 15 minutes and then just basically become a relationship salesperson that sends a portfolio, a questionnaire into the mothership who gives a standard allocation based on your age, no matter how you answer the questions. He didn't do that. He actually learned how to make money through investments. And you should listen to him because he shares everything he knows with you if you'll listen to his podcast, which is about once a week and not very long. Next up today, knifekits.com. You want to talk about loyal? You know when these guys became a sponsor? 2009. It's 2024, folks. These guys are still sponsors of the show. If you want to learn how to make knives on your own, you can start out with kits. As you progress, you can get raw materials like mammoth tusk, like buffalo horn, different bone material, etc. for handles. Really cool steel options like Damascus steel and some other stuff. They're just an awesome company. We've, again, been working with them for 14 years. They do a discount for MSB members as well. So check them out today, especially if you never have. I mean, I think we probably have a lot of sponsors that people that listen to the shows never really dug into and checked out. Definitely check them out. Hey, consider becoming an MSB member today. That's the Members Support Brigade. That's the program that basically pays the majority of the bills around here. It's $50 a year. You get enough discounts. It will pay for itself. I promise you, if you make any effort to use the discounts in the MSB, there is no way at the end of every year that you haven't put more money into your pocket than came out. You can learn more about that at the survivalpodcast.com. Click on the tab that says members or go /members. All right. With that, let's go ahead and get into this. So I want to start off with Biden because this is something that people are really starting to ask some questions about. And I have a theory that won't make those of you who are looking for the super conspiracy stuff really happy because the super conspiracy people want super conspiracies and everything. That's why we have a whole section today on stupidity that people are injecting into something that's already terrible to make it worse than they need to. But I think there's a pretty good explanation to the first question people are asking. Why did it have to be Sunday? Why did it have to be Sunday? Well, this isn't something you really want discussed much in the news. You really don't. You want us to kind of get through the initial shock, go on to the convention, anoint Harris, which is what's going to happen. We'll get into that too. And get her VP in and act like it never happened and cruise on. But the day you drop it, you're going to get an explosion. It's like setting off a nuclear device. Well, Sundays are great days to do that if you don't want the nuclear device to actually go off. You want it to be more like a dirty bomb than like a 10 kiloton detonation that wiped out a city the size of Dallas. So Sunday already makes sense if that's what you're going for. But something was happening today, something we'll talk a little bit about today, and no one is talking about Biden. This is the first time since Lyndon Johnson that an incumbent president has declined a nomination or to run again. Lyndon Johnson. Most of you, including me, were not alive when Lyndon Johnson was president. Okay? That's how long it's been. It's been over 50 years. Or maybe I was alive during Johnson. I'm not sure. What years were Johnson? Somebody put it in the live chat for me. I was born in 72. You work it out there. But it's been a long time. It's either about as long as I've been around or a little bit longer. No one's talking about it today on the news. You know what everybody's looking at on the news today? Secret Service Karen. Cheadle. She's getting her ass grilled in front of Congress. And by the way, even AOC is coming off the top rope with somebody wrote them for her, I'm sure. But even AOC is coming off with intelligent questions. I'll save my other thoughts on some of the leftist retards and the questions they're asking have nothing to do with what's going on. But even most of the people on the left questioning this idiot, Secret Service Karen, that are intelligent people on the left, they do exist. I'm not going to say they're all dumb. And just because I disagree with them doesn't make them stupid. They're asking really tough, hard questions like, how did this happen? Why don't you have any answers? And she has no answers. But that's where everybody's focus is. Now, do you think that people got up this morning and went, oh, gee, it's the day that Secret Service Karen goes in front of the House? No. And this is not real hearings. This is the grandstanding bullshit the House always does with these hearings. That's not a real hearing. There's no real investigative muscle behind it. This is not what we need. This is just the first step in this, and everybody doing their grandstanding. but they knew it would happen. So if you know that all eyes are going to be on Cheadle and the Democrats and Republicans for like the first time in 10 years really tag teaming on a hearing like this and kind of most, not all, but most being on the same side of it, then it's perfect, isn't it? So you drop it on Sunday so that you can let it kind of play out before you actually have to answer to it. Betty says she's not answering everything. We'll get there. No, she isn't. Like, we'll get there because I can't get sidelined. This is bad. By the way, if you have a question or comment for me today, question or comment in all caps in the live stream anyway, then go ahead and give it to me in one sentence. And if you do not get the first word in all caps, I'm probably not going to see it. I got one eye and I'm alone today. When I'm solo, it's a lot harder to do. There's a bigger question, though. What the hell's going on? It's one thing they drop it on Sunday. There's no video of the guy. There's no audio of the guy. There's not even like a picture of him signing off on the announcement. Okay, that's weird. Okay, January through 1969. So I wasn't alive when John. I thought that was right, and then I started questioning myself. Like, when did Nixon take over? I think 1970, right? So anyway, there's no picture, no video, no audio, no nothing of Brandon signing off on this. Well, that's a little odd. Wouldn't you think that they would at least like throw a suit coat on him or at least a shirt and say, Mr. President, here, pretend to sign this thing that you don't know what it is, even if that's what they did, because maybe who the hell knows? Don't you think you would call a staff meeting to the senior staff and say, listen, folks, you've been with us almost 4 years. We know we're coming to the end of this presidency. We need you to know something. The president is going to announce in a few moments publicly that he didn't do it. Like, I'm talking big wig, super high level staffers found out that their boss, I mean, you're talking people one level from the president, found out the president's resigning on fucking X from a tweet. Really? Okay, this is bizarre. One person, I don't remember who, I retweeted it though, or re-X'd it. I don't know what the hell you call it now, right? Because it's X. The Democrats are now overturning their own elections. And I'm like, yeah, that's about right, isn't it? That's what they're doing. Do you realize what just happened? You just had a coup. You know, all the shit that the Democrats have accused the Republicans of doing with January 6th and overturning an election, they actually did it. They used backdoor threats and pressure to get a sitting president to agree to step aside after securing a supermajority of delegates for a coming election. They just did exactly what they say. It's gaslighting all over again, isn't it? Just like I said it would be. By the way, didn't I tell you this last week? Didn't I say on Thursday, I think it was Thursday, that Biden has got to go fast. They got to get it done, or they're not going to be on certain ballots. They got to figure this out before the convention. They have to have a plan going in, or it's going to be a clusterfuck. And I believe what I said is he won't make it through the middle of next week, meaning this week. He likely won't make it through the weekend. I think I said that on Thursday. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. You guys pay attention. When I'm wrong, people always tell me, go ahead. People are saying he was pushed in the live chat. He was pushed. But Jeff's saying something I think might be true. It might be this conspiratorial. Biden still doesn't know he withdrew. I think that's possible. I think the guy might be laying in a hospital bed somewhere being pumped full of Paxlovid, whatever, Paxlovid, right? Which is a terrible drug, which has terrible side effects, which often causes a major rebound effect of COVID. They might be trying to get rid of the guy for good. Who knows? His brother is the only person in the family that's spoken other than Joe's written statement put out as a picture on fucking X, okay? And Jim Biden said something to this effect. I'm paraphrasing, but I'm going to be close, okay? Selfishly, I get him back for the time he has left. It's definitely health reasons, is what he said. Like, I think I got that out of order, but that's pretty much what Jim Biden, who's raked in millions of dollars from Hunter's exploits in China and Ukraine, by the way, said that. I think there's a high possibility here that Biden is incapacitated and not really with it, which would be pretty standard. And he doesn't even know they've decided he's done yet. Or they got him in, like, you also think about it this way. I said Biden's really stubborn. And unless he willingly does this, that you can't really get him to not be the nominee. Like, it's impossible to get rid of him unless he goes along with it. So they pulled all his money. Chucky Schumer and Nancy Pelosi have been working him backdoor. I'm sure Obama's been working him backdoor. And can't you just see a guy? I mean, he is in his 80s. He's not very well health-wise. If he does have COVID, if that's not a lie, for the third time after like 57 shots, by the way, I'm just saying, right? If you get these vaccines, you're not going to get COVID. Turns out that's not right. Go into him and go, Mr. President, aren't you ready to just be done with this? Aren't you ready to just go back to your beach house, feed ice cream to seagulls, take a trip to Florida or something, go down and see what a state run by a Republican that knows what they're doing looks like in DeSantis, or maybe take a trip somewhere. Like, don't you just want to just let go of all this and stop doing this and stop fighting and just chill and let the next generation take over, like you said 4 years ago? And in that moment, can't you see the guy going, yeah, you know, I think I do. Okay, here. Make an act. Somebody's saying his signature's different. Don't get into that. It doesn't matter. That's bullshit. Like, my signature is different every time I sign it, okay? I swear to God, if any of you have anything I've ever autographed, if somehow I go down in history as important enough that somebody cares after I'm dead, and you get somebody to try to authenticate it, they're going to go, I don't know. This sumbitch never signed his name the same way twice. I probably. It looks like shit, so it's probably Jack, right? That would be the best guess. It doesn't matter. But can't you see him? Because all he's got to do is say yes. Presidents have people on their staff that once they're given verbal approval, have the authorization to sign off on their behalf. In fact, one of the few things I actually learned watching the non-reality show Pawn Stars is that actually sometimes will bite a collector. They'll have a presidential document that is an authentic presidential document with somebody like, let's say, Dwight Eisenhower's, or go way back like Lincoln or Washington or Jefferson or Grant, you know, somebody from the 1800s, or Roosevelt or Kennedy's signature on it. And when they take it to be appraised, and they spend a lot of money on it, right? The appraiser's like, well, this is an official document. Woohoo! But it's not the president's signature. What? It's the president's authorized signature. So when we start like drilling down on PDFs and looking for pixelation, we're not following the real issue here. The real issue here is, where is the guy? Does he know he resigned? Who talked him into it? Did he really endorse Harris? Because the initial signals were he wasn't going to. Some very prominent Democrats suggested that he should not name Harris, that they should let some sort of micro primary or something play out. So I don't know where he is. It doesn't make any sense, but I'm not completely hackles up yet on my neck. I would say if we do not hear or see from the president directly in the next 48 hours from right now, then we got something really crazy going on. And I'm not one of these people that jumps ahead to crazy when I have no sources, nothing confirmed. I'm just going to say, like, that's about how much time I'm willing to give it before I start speculating the way all the retards do all the time and going, hey, something's really bizarre here. Something ain't right. Exactly what it is, it's kind of a wait and see holding pattern. Now, is Kamala going to be the VP? Yes. I mean, will VP Harris become the new presidential nomination? Yes. It's not maybe. It's not possibly. No, Hillary Clinton isn't going to sneak into the back door of the convention and steal it from her after everybody says she's getting it. They already have delegates pledging remotely that were already pledged to Harris. You have some of the biggest names in politics, including Clinton and her husband, both Clintons, endorsing Kamala. This, like I told you, months ago when I could see this was going to happen, this is the only real play they have. Since I first told you about this and the problem with the money being tied up, there was about $90 million. Now there's close to $200 million in Biden's campaign. Now the Republicans may file a lawsuit to prevent that money from being handed over to the Harris campaign. because it was the Biden-Harris, not the Harris campaign. That's going to be a tough thing to do. They will probably be able to use that funding. So the money alone. The other side of this, though, you cannot. Now, first of all, I know she's not really black, okay? And anybody who's done like the smallest amount of research into this knows her father was Jamaican, right? And not like black Jamaican, right? Her mother is from India. Her family is rich as shit. And her like great-great-grandfather was a slave owner in Jamaica. But as far as people are concerned, real quick, I'm going to comment on this. Jeff says RFK Jr. is their only hope. But he's not. He's not their only hope. He's no hope at all for them. Now, I understand what Jeff's saying. RFK, if the Democrat Party right now said we're throwing everything out and they picked him somehow and put him in place, he can probably beat Trump, maybe, because of what I am about to say next. As far as the people of this country are concerned, over 95% of them, if you said, is Kamala Harris African-American, they're going to tell you yes. My wife pointed out to me today, she had a picture side by side of Tulsi Gabbard and Kamala Harris. They look like they have the same skin complexion. But as far as people are concerned, Kamala Harris is a black woman. Okay. The perception problem. You have a party who has made its leading thing gender equality, civil rights, DEI, all of it. You cannot sideline the first sitting vice president who is a black female who has been endorsed by a politician the level of Joe Biden. I know that when you think Joe Biden, you think, what a moron. That is not how Democrats feel. And with good reason. The man was in the Senate for almost 50 years. He was one of the youngest senators ever elected at the time that he was elected. He has his name over legislation that spans, 4.5, 5 decades. He was the vice president for 8 years. They genuinely like the guy. They know the problem they have now, but they genuinely like the guy, at least who he was, if not who he is. So when he signs off on her, you can't do it, because what would happen is there are a shitload in the voter rolls, and it's just not black people. It's a lot of freaking women in general, right? That are all in on this idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? Liberal white women, rich liberal white women will not vote. They will not vote for Trump. That's not the danger to the Democrats. They will stay home if you sideline Harris. The only way you would get that to work, you would have to get Cackles to come out and go, I have decided for the good of the country to step aside. And that might work if you can convince them that she did it on her own accord. No, they had one chance to get rid of her. And Kenty Jackson took the SCOTUS seat. That was the only way they could have. Like, if they realized about midterm this was going to happen, and they should have, they could have offered her that SCOTUS seat, and she would have resigned the vice. Like, you will step aside as vice president, unsure of what's going to happen in the next election, to take a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. Anybody would. And is she qualified? I know you and I don't think so. When I say is she qualified, she's a lawyer, prosecutor, good standing with a bar, senator. Yeah, ticks the boxes. They could have got her approved. They had 51 votes in the Senate because they had her to vote for herself. They could have, I guess, named a proxy for VP, or I don't know how we would have handled that. But let's be honest, some Republican would have voted for her just to get her out of the White House, right? So they could have got rid of her. They didn't. They can't get rid of her. The only question now is, who's the VP going to be? And I'm hearing some really stupid names that do nothing for the Democrat Party. J.D. Pritzker. Most people in America, if you said, who is J.D. Pritzker, they don't know. He's the Democrat version of Chris Christie. He's a big fat guy from Illinois. He's not going to be the... Here's what you do know. If it's somebody like a J.D. Pritzker, then what they're saying is, we know we're going to lose and we don't care. If they want to win, it's not going to be Gavin Newsom. Gavin Newsom in a head-to-head against Trump in polls loses by 13 points in the popular vote. If Democrats can't win a popular vote, they can't win the Electoral College. It's an impossibility. There's no way in the current structure of things in the United States for a Republican can lose popular and win electoral. We've seen it multiple times. There is no way in the current situation that a Democrat's going to lose popular and win electoral. So they need somebody that can pull in the swing states. People are talking about Casey from Pennsylvania. He'll get reelected there, but he's not like super popular where he's going to actually change a vote. There's not a lot of good picks. There's not a lot of good picks in this. They'll probably pull somebody out of the cabinet that ticks a DEI box like Buttigieg, right? Booty juice. They'll put Pete in there. At least the guy can speak in a way that doesn't sound like a mumbling retard. I mean, the guy, during the Democrat primary debates in 2020, he was the only person that sounded like an adult in the room. Now, don't get me wrong. I disagree with almost everything that comes out of his mouth. I'm talking about his ability to convey it in a way that people listen to and know what the hell he's saying. Because Cackles can't do that. Can you? Who here can't wait to see Archman v. Harris, whether you vote or not, right, in a debate? That may not even happen, by the way. We'll see. The Trump campaign right now is saying we're not committing to any debates because you don't know what you're doing, which is a very smart move because they don't know what they're doing. And until they formalize what they're doing, there's no point in this, right? I actually think the Trump campaign made a really dumb move. They made a really dumb move. So it's very clear what happened. The people around Joe Biden in his orbit gassed him up like you get a stupid kid into a fight at school. You can take him. Just hit him in the stomach. He'll go right down, and you know the guy's going to lose a fight. And you push him into the fight to watch the fight. That's what happened to Biden with the debate. They did it earlier than any two primary candidates have ever debated. As far as I know, there's never been debates before the certification, Democrat v. Republican, or two parties debating for the presidency before either are actually certified. It's never happened. They did it because if he fell on his face, they had this opportunity. If Trump's team was thinking more strategically, they should have said, fuck off, we'll debate you after the conventions when they were locked and it was too late to back out. That's what they should have done because he would have train wrecked as bad or worse then. By having that debate, they gave the Democrats the ability to sub in Harris. Now, I think there were a lot of people on the Democrat side that aren't so happy about it now going, gee, this seemed like a good idea. And then, you know, she comes out and goes, hi, I'm Kamala. My pronouns are she, her. I'm sitting in this chair. I'm wearing a blue dress. I'm okay. Or whatever the hell she said. I mean, like, unburdened by the past, looking to the future. Like, just like, oh, wait a minute. What have we done? And they realize they can't do anything else. They're stuck. They're stuck. Agora's tax advice is saying Newsom and cannot be Kamala's VP because they're both from California. Yes, she can. Yes, she can. And here's why. She's not from California anymore. Her residence is D.C. She's no longer a California resident. And that is an archaic piece of the Constitution. And if that happened now, what would happen is the president, who would be, in this case, Cackles, would just say, since there's this conflict in the election, I'm just naming them. And the Republicans aren't, like, Democrats might stand in the way of that. Republicans are just, yeah, okay, we lost. He's good. We do need to fix that little problem in our Constitution, by the way. For those who don't know what we're talking about here, the way we used to elect the president and vice president when the country was first founded under our current Constitution was entirely different. And the vice president is the person that got the second most votes. So right now, Trump would be vice president and Biden would be president. And the last time, Biden would have been Trump's vice president. And before that, I guess, probably McCain, because I don't think Romney would have ever come around in that arrangement. You see what I'm saying? Like, this is how this used to work. So to guard against kind of the hegemony, the founder said, if that's how it's going to work, you can't have two people from the same state in both offices. Well, that's irrelevant at this point. So that's why that is. And I am getting your questions as they come in like this one. Just keep putting that all caps. All right. So one more time, though, before we move on from the presidential thing, stop the shit about Michelle Obama. Big Mike does not want to run for president. It's not that he, she, shim, it, they couldn't and might not even be a good candidate. Obama's wife, right, whatever that means, doesn't want to do this. This is widely known, plenty of inside sources. She does not, he does not, it does not want to do this, okay? I'm sorry. You got to let it go. I don't know how long it has to not happen for you guys to stop it. And I had personal contacts, friends, texting me yesterday. It's going to be Michelle Obama. I'm like, no, it's not. Stop it. Stop it. It's stupid. All right. Now, let's talk about the assassination attempt and some stupidity coming from, like say, the truther side or the freedom side or whatever that just needs to stop. This hurts my head to look at this. And here's what bugs me about this. I said Monday last week this would happen. And now I have to watch it like a slow motion train wreck as more and more stupid comes out. What is this? This woman, and you can go find videos if you want to, but she's right behind Trump and she's sitting there when the shot rings out. And she's looking like she's not really interested in what's going on, or she's not afraid, or she's not, and the woman over to Trump's right, your left, she looks appalled. She realizes what's going on. So obviously she's up to something, and she videoed it. Plenty of other people did this too. She just happens to be right there in the frame. You notice if you look at this, the guy right in front of her, he doesn't look too alarmed. This person doesn't look too alarmed. This kid doesn't look like he cares at all. This person's staring off into space. This dude in glasses behind this blonde lady, he's freaked out. She's figured out he doesn't know what's going on. If that's a dude, it might be a woman. I don't know. But there's nothing really here except she's fidgeting around and all before the shot. They're like, she signaled the shooter. Why? Why would the shooter need her to signal? The man's standing there. His head's up in the air. They tried to kill him. They don't need her. So somebody digs through a bunch of pictures of FBI personnel. And they find this assistant director, Janine Di Giuseppe, in her picture. And they say, this woman is this woman. You have to want that to be true to believe that for 3 seconds. These are not the same people. I know the other ladies wearing glasses. Just on their body weight, right? What their BMI would be. The woman in the picture behind Trump is probably 20 pounds lighter weight than this FBI director chick. Okay? All they did was find two people with a little, they're both brunettes with shoulder-length hair. And they're sort of similar in shape of face, but they're not even the same there. Look at the roundness of the one lady's face. Why are people doing this? Why do you think people are doing this? Because everybody wants to be the person that found something. This is stupid. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. It unfortunately won't. It is only going to get worse from this point on. Way worse. Another thing that's happened is I'm seeing all these videos everywhere. I'm not even going to put any of them up. I don't want to give them any light of day whatsoever. This video conclusively proves there was a second shooter. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Now I'm saying, is it impossible that there was a second shooter besides the Secret Service trying to kill the guy that shot Trump? No, I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm saying none of these videos prove fucking anything. There's a difference. All of a sudden, everybody's a fucking ballistics audio expert. There's a different rifle, right? And they're starting this stupid shit. He was up on the water tower. The water tower is about 30 feet taller than the roof of the building. And it's from behind the president. And the shots would have been down toward the crowd sitting in front of Trump. And probably would have hit the ground in front of the stage if they were fired at Trump. There's two shooters. And neither one of them could hit the guy with a pot shot. You see how stupid this is, right? This is dumb. And this always happens in these events. And I'm telling you right now, right, where this is coming from. The people you think you're fighting with are causing this. They will leak false information. They will, just like I said, they ramped up Biden. They'll ramp these people up. They'll ramp up the Laura Loomers, the Alex Joneses, all this shit to push this narrative because they know it discredits the people who have legitimate concerns about what's going on. Right now, almost everybody, including diehard Democrats, are going to vote for if they nominate a pig, right, as VP or as president. If they throw Kamala out, they throw out Big Mike, they throw out Newsom, they throw everybody out, and they go out to a random farm and pick a pig, they're going to vote for that pig. They still know this isn't right. Those voters are still saying this cannot be. Because if it can happen to their guy, it can happen to our guy, it can happen to somebody else. This is incompetence. And this is a very scary thing if you're the government right now. There's probably never been a time, certainly in my life, where this country's been more politically divided than we are right now. Ever. Like, not just divided, but like hateful division. And for something to make those two sides go, yeah, we can put our differences aside on this thing. And the only place that agreement focuses its anger and hatred and desire for answers is the government. It's the government. There's nobody going, hey, really, this is the fault of clouds, right? Or this is because of global warming. They haven't tried that yet. They probably will. But nobody's serious anyway. So, like, literally, Democrats, independents, Republicans are all united. This sucks. This woman, the Secret Service Karen woman, Cheadle, obviously fell on her ass. She has no idea what she's doing in front of Congress right now. There's no answers coming out. This is fucked up. If you're the government, you're like, man, we got to do something about this shit. And what do? You get the crazies crazier. So that people that have questions, that question the narrative, they don't even have a narrative yet. They're going to. They will eventually present a narrative. They'll have diagrams and experts testifying and PDFs you can download and all kinds of shit. It may or may not be accurate, but it probably won't be accurate, right? They want, by the time that happens, they want everybody, just like 9/11, to be terrified to be the nail sticking up that gets the hammer. They want everybody who says, bullshit. No, there is no excuse to leave that roof unguarded. There is no way that that's okay. Somebody fucked up something. And it was like, this looks bad. It looks like maybe it was intentional. It was like a let it happen event, something. They can't have that. They want to get enough crazy talk so that when you say that, they just push you in with the crazies. Watch it happen, and it's driving me freaking crazy. It's driving me crazy because I can see it happening. I can use my platform to tell as many people it's happening as I want to. And you know what? I can't do anything to stop it. The stupid will keep coming. And then the total idiots. The people with so much Trump derangement syndrome, they're still pushing this idea. Trump made it happen. Trump did it. Trump hired a guy to nick him in the ear so that he could look like a hero. Trump really didn't get nicked in the ear. A piece of the teleprompter cut him. Or some other bullshit, right? There's crazy on all sides of this, and they are going to pump it in. And Kelly is accurately saying it's outside of your circle of control. It is, but it's not outside my circle of influence, Kelly. I do have enough clout to at least have some influence on the people who listen to this show. That's why I'll bother to talk about it. Now, there's some things that make this worse. We don't need any conspiracy theories. And I'm going to go quick so we can get into the homesteading stuff, okay? But one is, we have confirmed sources now that say there were multiple requests for increased security, even though Secret Service Karen has denied it. She's kind of let it slip today. Well, yes, sort of. Sort of means yes, right? What is it with these fucking people, by the way? All these high-level bureaucrats, they're asked point blank a yes or no question, and they can't answer yes or no. I have zero tolerance for that in anybody. I don't tolerate that from my grandson. Did you do the thing? We'll see. I was up. No. But I wanted to explain. You know what? Give me a yes or no and you can explain. I don't let a fucking 13-year-old bullshit me on a yes-no answer. But we have the director of Secret Service sitting in front of the United States Congress can't answer a question yes or no. But we have absolute confirmation at this point. And one of the sources on it is Dan Bongino, who I believe. Multiple requests for increased security at this location for this event denied. Okay, that's damning. Because we also know there was a credible threat from the Iranian government on Trump's life. There's always credible threats on anybody like Trump, but especially Trump in this situation. And we know that there were some members of his detail that were pulled off and assigned to the First Lady's detail because she was in Pittsburgh fucking around for some reason. This event was announced almost 2 weeks before it happened. Secret Service did their they began doing their scoping out the area, pre-event checks 5 days in advance. This asshole looks like he stored a gun and a ladder on site. They didn't find that. You think somebody would take a canine out there trained to smell shit like that, at least to notice stuff like that? How long did it take me to find the ladder? I found it on Sunday in pictures. Don't you think if you walked around, you might see a ladder hidden in an alcove? That may not have been the shooter's ladder. Then the other ladder was over on the other air conditioning unit further back. One way or another. Don't you think you could find this shit? This is just awful. Then I got something else to ask you. This is something I've noticed before, but now it looks so stupid. I have to put it on screen for you to see it. If you're listening to the audio, you might want to pull up about 41 minutes into the video to see this, and I'm going to blow it up for you guys so that it's. But I can't, because when I do that, the audio comes up on it. And I don't know if can you guys still hear it? Let me know. Do you guys hear audio playing? I just turned the volume down. And if you're hearing that awful music, I can't do this. But I'm just going to let it play for a second. I'm going to let it loop over. And I want you to look at the women, the Secret Service women. Not just that she can't holster her weapon. The hunch. What is this hunch? What is this freaking hunch? Right? What is this hunch these women have? What do they think that here, right here? This is perfect. She's in the hunch. What is this? Good, the audio's gone. Now I can just let it play. All right. I'll just drop the volume all the way down and let it play while I'm talking then. Okay, good. All right, so what is this hunch? Look at this shit. This looks like a Saturday Night Live skit. What this looks like, this is what these women make me think of. And as I've said, I'm not saying there are no women that can't do this job. I'm saying these women don't look like they can do this job, especially two of them in particular. And one of the two that I'm talking about here. This hunch, she's doing it too now. The one in the center screen, there's non-holster head. She's doing the hunch. I've seen other video of these same agents when Trump got to the ER. There's a video there was a guy. His wife basically was a heat casualty. She was going to pass out from heat. They went to the ER to get her fluids. And they're there when Trump arrives, and they video it. And they're very happy that he's okay and walking. They didn't know. They'd only heard, third-party information at that point. And that same woman that can't holster her gun, she gets out in front of the president's SUV and does the same hunch maneuver, right? You're lowering their head. For those on the audio, they're lowering their head all of 2.5 inches. What is this? I'll tell you what it makes me think of. Every one of us, it makes themselves a smaller target. It looks like a Melissa McCarthy film. It really does. She does look like Melissa McCarthy. She looks an awful lot like Pat from SNL. Or was it Mad TV? I don't remember. But Pat, remember Pat? Right. So they do this hunch. And people are saying it's so that they're less of a target. You're not really reducing yourself as a target when you're doing that, okay? Lowering your head 2 inches doesn't do much to protect you. And what's your job when defending the president? To be a meat shield. If you don't, I've said this before, I know it's scary as shit to have to do it, but if you don't want to do it, don't do this fucking job. It's to put yourself between yourself and the protectee and any threat. So reducing your silhouette is a good idea in combat, but if that's what you think reduces your silhouette in combat, you're going to be dead, right? You need cover and concealment. You need to move. Secret Service agents stand there because their job is to stand between the threat and the protectee at all times. And if you get shot and you die, that's the job. Don't take it if you're not willing to have the risk. But what this makes me think of is when you see fights where there's this guy that's like some super master that can use telekinetic energy to knock somebody down or something, and somebody actually gasses him up enough to fight like a mid-level MMA fighter or some actual guy that really knows like Taekwondo or Jiu-Jitsu or something. and they get in the fight, and the guy that's supposed to be the supreme supermaster gets hit in the mouth one time, not knocked out though, just takes a blow, and his face is one of complete and utter shock. He has no idea what just happened. He's actually supposedly a super martial arts master. He's never been punched in the face once in his life. He's never experienced it. If you've ever seen somebody take their first punch in the face, if they don't go like super knockout shot, like if they're still conscious, if it's just like a jab, the face of a person who's never been hit has this kind of shock and appalled look on it. I don't know what to do because I've never experienced this before. This is what getting hit is really like. These women are completely unprepared. They're acting in a way that they think makes them look tactical. That's what they're doing. I mean, I'll guarantee you that's what they're doing. That's what they think they're doing. And they do. It's weird as shit looking. And here's how you know it's an issue with these women. Okay, I'm not saying with women. With these women assigned to his detail on that day. Watch the men. Go watch all the videos you want. The men, when they're moving the president, are completely upright. If anything, they're standing taller than normal, right? And in general, they're not sitting there with their gun like this, right? It looks like what it is. People who are not really capable of doing the job, acting the way that they think will make them look like they're doing something in the time. This, to me, if I was in Congress doing an investigation, this would be a big part of it. Who are these women? What is their background? What did they do before they were hired in a Secret Service? By the way, can they pass a PFQ? Can they? Because I looked up the PFQ for Secret Service, and even an older agent who's still on the job should have to do at least one overarm pull-up. Do you think? Let's pull this person up again. I'm not trying to be cruel here. But does anybody out there believe that woman can do a pull-up? A straight arm hanging, no momentum pull-up. Okay, look, I know that a lot of people can't do a pull-up like that. I understand it. You don't need to be able to do a pull-up like that. But if you're a Secret Service agent, you do. You absolutely need to be able to do a fucking pull-up because it's the requirement for the job. So I want to know, can these three women that were on the job that day pass the PFQ? When's the last time they were given a PFQ? Let's do it again and see if they pass. And if they don't pass, who was the freaking superior who signed off on them passing? Right? Here's something else. I'm not going to really speak to this directly, but Crazy Pollock says, ex-Secret Service sniper said the guys in green are not Secret Service either. Only a couple of guys in black tactical outfits are from the response team. Actually, here's another thing, and I didn't have it in my bullet points for you today. We also learned something else. The majority of the people on site at this event for security from the federal government were not Secret Service. They were not Secret Service. For those on audio that don't get to see all of this stuff come in, I want to tell you who the hardest person on these female agents has been right now in the chat. It's Erin, who happens to be a gal, right? So don't think this is sexist. This is just pointing out these people are not qualified to do their job. But I want to know who signed off on their passing of a PFQ if they can't pass a PFQ. How does that work? I mean, I don't know exactly how you run Secret Service, but I was in the Army back in the 90s. It was a long time ago. And we had to take a PT test once every 6 months, roughly. Twice a year, you'd have to take a PT test. If you failed the PT test, you went on remedial PT. And if you couldn't pass it after a certain amount of time, you got put out of the Army. Now, this is like, some of these people are cooks, TAMS clerks, which is basically they do paperwork, medical clerks, etc. These are people that don't need to be able to do 52 push-ups or whatever. But they still had to. There was a requirement, and we were held to the requirement. How is the most important security service on the planet not meeting their, and I'm telling you they're not. I'm sorry. Again, I'm not being hateful. There is no way that woman can do one fucking pull-up. And I will bet anybody $1,000 that she can't. And I will also make this bet. What I just said will never happen. The agents that were on site that day will never be put through a PFQ and the results made public. Because if they do, it will be damning beyond where we already are. The shooter was not only spotted with a rangefinder. There's a little thing we learned over this weekend. The fucking kid flew a drone over the area to surveil it before the event started. Now, the only way we know that is somebody saw it happen. Somebody saw it happen. Oh, by the way, a private wealth firm took out a $12 million short just prior to the attempt. Then when it came out publicly that they did it, and it was a company called Austin Private Wealth, who I think it's Van Eck, definitely BlackRock, several of the biggest financial firms in the world actually are the main shareholders behind this company. So it's like this multi-tiered corporate structure of bullshit, one-off. So they shorted, it's something like 12 million shares, not $12 million. It was a multi-billion-dollar short position against DJT, which is the public corporation, the ticker symbol for Truth Social and all the associated components of Trump's business. Now, this is funny. So what Austin Private Wealth said is it was a bookkeeping error. So their first response to this was, we didn't even mean to do it. It was an accident. Let me tell you something. They didn't fire anybody. Unlike the government, when you work for a private wealth firm, if you accidentally put in a multi-billion-dollar short that doesn't pay off, you get your fucking ass fired, okay? They took the page down announcing it. It shows a 404 error now. They just took it away, okay, with no redirect and no explanation. But this is the new explanation. Well, we put the paperwork in on Friday, the day before the rally. That was we don't mean it was an error that we did the short. We actually did the short about 10 days prior to it, and it was late being reported. Okay, I'm just going to say, if it was 10 days prior to it and you took out a multi-billion-dollar short against DJT in the middle of an election, something smells. Something smells. I'm sorry. It feels to me like somebody knew. Now, I'm not trying to be the crazy conspiracy person, but here's some other things we know. One, BlackRock's hands are all over this. Okay? Austin Private Wealth without BlackRock is not much. There's a lot of BlackRock money in there. This fucking kid, and you check this if you think I'm making shit up. This kid did all kinds of shit. His parents were therapists or some shit. He worked in like freaking elder care facilities. He was involved in all kinds of private charity shit. And he was an actor. He was an actor, an extra. He was in a fucking commercial for BlackRock. You can't make this up. Could that be coincidence? It could be. But when all this other shit's going on, I'm starting to see a pattern versus a coincidence here. Okay? The shooter was supposed to be the shooter's roof, where the guy shot from. That roof was supposed to have an officer on it. There are text messages. Again, the source on this is Dan Bongino, who is a good journalist. I don't care if you don't like him. Sometimes he's kind of a smart-ass sounding guy. I'm sure people think that about me. It's not like I sit and listen to the guy every day, but his information always checks out, especially when he says this is 100% confirmed. I have not yet seen him have to retract that once. He has looked at text messages confirming that somebody was supposed to be on that roof and they just didn't show up. Now, listen. Okay. Something smells here too. When you have a key responsibility, the police are really there to control traffic. Okay, great. Yeah, I know. So if you have one less guy controlling traffic, or you have one guy not on a roof that is a key risk to the former president and possible future president of the United States, and you have to pick where he goes, where do you send him? So Bill doesn't show up, and I got Tom on traffic duty. Tom, get the fuck on the roof. This had to be reported back. Because don't tell me for a minute that Butler PD is starting to get pissed about the way they're trying to throw them under the bus. Don't think for 1 minute that this was not reported back to the freaking commander, the AIC, agent in charge of the op. Don't think he didn't know there was nobody on that roof, because he did. I guarantee he or she did. There was nobody on the roof. You put somebody up there. And then what's the excuse from Secret Service Karen? The roof was sloped. Now, we knew that Monday. I talked about that Monday. The roof was sloped. So, no, bullshit. The roof was sloped makes all of this worse. And it makes all of this worse because anybody hearing that knows it's just a bullshit excuse. And it's worse than a bad excuse. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Do you have to question the mental capacity of the person that said it? Think about this person, this Cheeto, right? Miss Cheeto. Miss Cheeto is being interviewed like the day after this shit goes down. She's just had the biggest failure in Secret Service history in the United States. This is a bigger failure than, let's say, JFK or Ronald Reagan, because it should have never happened. Because the threat was so obvious, because the threat was called out over an hour before the shots were the first reports of this fucker's over here getting up on the roof. The guy got up and down off the roof multiple times. At least, 3 minutes before the shots, people said there's a guy there with a gun. It was called in back channel. It means everybody that was part of it knew what was going on. So this is a bigger failure than JFK. JFK, there were buildings. Go to Dealey Plaza if you ever get a chance. I really recommend it. There's X's on the streets where John Kennedy's car was when the shots were fired. You can stand there and look. Look around and think about trying to defend that position for a president. Because it's not the book depository. It's not, the book depository is multiple floors, windows everywhere. But there's giant buildings. Now, there's more now than there were then. But at the time, go look at the Zapruder film. There's giant buildings and rooftops everywhere. So it was very conceivable that was a good ambush point. You want the tightest security you can get, but you got the president in a convertible, right? Reagan, the guy walks up on the street, shoots him with a revolver at point blank range, and they immediately beat the shit out of the guy and throw their. I mean, they looked like they were. I remembered. I was a kid when it happened. They were on it instantly. It was a failure, but it was nowhere near the biggest failure compared to this. So she goes on, which she knows is going to be global television. And when they ask her about the roof, she comes up with the excuse that it was slanted. And she doesn't say, so standard practices. She says a very lawyer-like, sleazy, snake level, like snake shit level. Like snake, it's insulting to snakes. I like snakes. Maggot shit, scum level lawyer answer. So the decision was made. That's a way of saying, I had nothing to do with it, even though the buck stops. But that's exactly what that is. But then of all the reasons you could give, the roof was slanted. I know it's bullshit. We all know it's bullshit. But we're focusing on the wrong thing if we focus on the fact that it's bullshit. What you should be focusing on is she thought it was a good idea to say that. The level of stupid you have to be to say that, that's the real problem. There was a full call out. Right? There was a full call out of a man on the roof with a gun. It went out back channel. And when it went out full on, there's a guy with a gun on the roof. We just saw him. We have an officer that fell off the roof when he pointed a gun at him. Do something now. 1 minute and 57 seconds before a shot rang out. 2 minutes. 2 minutes. I know you're saying, that's not very long, really. 2 minutes? Secret fucking service? An op this size? Get the president off the fucking stage. They even have a procedure for it. They'll put up on the teleprompter when somebody high level like that is reading, if they're not sure and they just want to clear them, they'll put up technical difficulties. And that protectee is told what that means. And he's supposed to say, we got technical difficulties, I had to step down for a minute. That way, if it ends up being nothing, they can go right back into it. They didn't do that. There's a procedure to do. In that situation, you initiate that protocol, right? I've done whole shows about procedures and protocols, techniques and tactics. Well, in this case, there's a procedure, and the requirement for the protocol was well beyond met, and they didn't do nothing. They let the guy take the shot. No matter, now, did they do it maliciously or incompetently? And I know I'm in a minority when I say this, okay? I know I'm in a minority when I say this. If it's incompetence, it's worse. It's worse. And here's why. If it's malicious, it wasn't everybody there. Okay, if it was intentional, it wasn't everybody. You could cause this to happen with just one or two key people. Like, who's the AIC for this? Who was the agent in charge of the op? What's their name? Why don't we know? Why haven't we heard from them? Right? That would be all you would need. Or one of their high-level subordinates could actually cause this. My point is, if this is malice, it's a handful of people, even above the people that were there that day, that are actually the problem. If this is incompetence, if this is how incompetent the current Secret Service of the United States of America is in 2024, it is rotten to the core, and it has to be gutted. And the problem is, you can get rid of all the people that don't belong there, but you have to replace them. And training somebody to this level takes time. And I don't care what their background is. They can be a fucking Navy SEAL. They can be a Green Beret. They can be Marine Recon, right? Army Special Forces, right? SWAT from LAPD. FBI tactically trained. I don't care. All those people will be able to progress through training for this job more quickly, but none of them have the job the Secret Service has when it comes to protecting dignitaries. It is a very specialized job. There's probably not any other job in the world, probably not any other job in the world where you are told, I'm not saying other countries don't have corollaries, but this job is probably the only one where you are told, when somebody shoots at this person, you stick your body between the bullet and this person. We hear about people taking a bullet for somebody or whatever. That's individual choice. You're literally trained. If somebody's trying to kill the president, stick your body in front of them. That's just one very obvious example. No one is ready to do this job without going through the internal training for the job. Period. Do not care what your former job was. Even if you were like Secret Service for fucking Canada, you're not ready to do it for the United States. Not because even we're better. I hope we are. Maybe we were. But because we're different. There's different procedures. There's different protocols. There's different reporting structure. There's different things you have to be trained in all that. So if we find out that this organization has, let's say, 30 to 40% of the people in it that are so incompetent that something like this can happen, how long does it take to fix it? How long does it take to fix it? Oh, by the way, I think I got sidetracked there. One of the things we learned is a shitload of the people that were supposed to be Secret Service agents, like literally their position should have been that of a Secret Service agent. They were DHS agents, Department of Homeland Security, not trained to exactly what I'm saying. Maybe good at what they do, not trained for this. They were subbed in. I mean, this is so bad. This is so freaking bad. There's also an issue here, and I've been asked about this, and I've been thinking of how to explain it. I've been asked, if what you say is true, Jack, the shooter was on the part of the roof you said, not where they put the shooter in all the diagrams. And the new diagrams that are finally coming out, gee, the media caught up with a redneck duck farmer podcaster, right? Redneck hippie duck farmer's there first, but the shooter was where I said he was. So the new diagrams put the shooter where the shooter was, not way out at the edge of the building where he would have been in full view of the counter snipers. He was behind trees, giving him concealment. And it looks like now that the two sharpshooters, the two counter snipers that we say shot him, didn't even fire their weapons. It was the counter sniper behind them that had a higher angle and could see down to where he was because he was so concealed by the trees they couldn't see him. Can't confirm that, but it's what it looks like. So people said, well, how did he know exactly the spot to go? Well, here's how you would know. You would walk through the freaking thing with your rangefinder, getting all your ranges. Look where they put the counter snipers while they're looking at you, putting a bolo on you, and then not stopping you, interrogating you, interviewing you. I mean, go try to video cops leaving a precinct in a parking lot. They'll come over and harass you. But this guy's walking around with a rangefinder, flying drones around and shit, carrying ladders. No one talks to him. Backpacks and shit. Like he in and out multiple times, up and down the roof multiple times, crawling around the roof. People are screaming, there's a guy with a gun. They don't do jack shit, right? How does he know where to go? Well, he already picked out the roof, obviously, because this is the problem. Where else would you go if you could go? If you could pick any place you wanted to be to take a shot at the president on that day, and you could pull it off and get there, where would you take the shot from? That roof. That's why it's so fucking damning that no one was on the roof. Because it's the place anybody with an IQ over like 70 would take the shot from, except that most people would think, yeah, they'll know. But if you try to get up there and they don't stop you, maybe one of the reasons he was up there and then back down is he went to see if he could get up there without the gun and then went back and got the gun. I mean, that's what I would do. I would go up there and, like, if they caught me, well, what are you doing up here? I'd have a camera. I can't afford to be in there, so I was taking pictures from it. I just wanted to see Trump, right? There's all kinds of bullshit you could have pulled. But no, he goes up there. They don't bother him, so he takes the gun up there. Getting behind the trees was something that anybody who played hide and seek as a kid would figure out to do. Wouldn't you? Like, I want to get up there. Those guys with a gun might want to kill me. Look, there's a tree in the way between. They can't see me, but I can see Trump. The fact okay, so what I'm saying is, given the configuration of the counter snipers, one team inside the fucking building, which is retarded. It's so stupid. They give up a 360-degree view for at best a 180, more like 150-degree view. Makes no sense. But of all the places on the roof that the guy would position himself, it was the perfect spot. It's where, if you told me you have to kill this guy, right? Let's say some kind of crazy movie like, you don't kill this guy, we're going to murder your whole family, so I'm willing to do it. It's where I would go. Now, I don't mean the building. I don't mean the roof. I mean the fucking spot where the guy was. That's where I would have went. To exactly that spot. How do you not have eyes? Not just on the roof. You understand what I'm saying? I'm talking within 25, like a 25-foot circle. This was the strategically best place to be on that day to take that shot. They keep saying the reason this guy missed is he was a terrible shot. I don't think so. I think it's dadgone dumb luck. Dumb luck. Because the truth is, he's up there. He did know how to shoot. He had trained a little bit. That's all you need. Jason said he'd be 1,000 yards out. No, you wouldn't. There's no place for you to be in that location 1,000 yards out. Didn't exist. You know what the smart plan would have been? Be in that exact spot, take one shot, not multiple shots, immediately use the device detonator he had. Probably didn't work. Set off the car bomb, distract people, only one shot. Very hard to triangulate where the shot came from. Get the fuck down, get out of your clothes into something else and blend in the crowd. It wouldn't have worked, but it was a hell of a lot smarter than getting your head blown off. But that spot right there was the spot to take that shot. Trump got lucky. He turned his head, but if you watch the thing, he literally kind of cocks his head, that little weird thing he does where he cocks his head, just as the guy probably pulled the trigger. Because even with the nick, if he didn't make that little cock in his head, then it would have still got enough of the side of the temple that probably would have killed him. And he probably rushed his shot because people were screaming, there's a guy with a gun, there's a guy with a gun, there's a guy with a gun. Think about the whole situation. This guy's not a trained assassin. Probably never fired anything at any living thing before in his life. He's taking a shot at Donald fucking Trump, and people are screaming that he's up there and has a gun. He probably pulled a little bit to the left, right? And Trump turned his head. The reason I'll say that, people talk about how easy that shot is. Let me tell you how easy that shot is. And I will say I was an expert marksman in the Army. Give me a 12-pack of beer. I could sit in a lawn chair on that roof and down a 12-pack of beer over about an hour and a half. Lay on that roof with an AR with iron sights and make that shot 10 times out of 10 times. It was damn luck, or some people say it was divine intervention. I don't really think it works that way. I think if you're going to say God saved Trump, then God killed the guy that died. God killed the firefighter. I think that God gives us complete free will. I really do. And I think that but there are the fates, I guess is the way I would look at it. Instead of God did it, the fates. And it just wasn't time. It just wasn't time. And it's millimeters from history being completely different. It really is. Anyway, I want to go on to some other things and talk about some. So if you only tuned in for the blood and guts, the fire and brimstone, the gore, it's over now. You can leave. It's okay. We won't mock you when you're out of here. You know, we got over 300 people here right now. I'm sure some will bail, but I want to. Jack has been training for the 12-pack shot. Guys, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying the shot's that easy for anybody. You got a dead rest. Roofs don't move. I'm just saying. It really was. But if you want to learn about some of the other stuff we do, if you're here just for this, hang out because we're going to talk about some cool shit. So one of the questions I got, this is very interesting. There's a plant called Azolla. I've talked about it a lot. I've done whole shows on Azolla, Azolla. People always ask, what kind of Azolla? Azolla Carolina, if you want a Latinaic name, it doesn't matter. If you buy it, that's what you're going to get. And if you find it in North America, it's what you're going to find. It's a little floating plant that is basically a fern that fixes nitrogen, meaning it takes nitrogen out of the air and puts it onto its own roots. So it doesn't need much in the way of nitrogen, which may be part of the problem that's going on here for this individual. I'm not really sure. But it's a wonder plant. It will double its size about every 4 days. People will say every 2 days, every 48 hours. I have not seen that, but about every 4 days, it will double in volume. It does not like heavy sun. In this case, given this person is in Pennsylvania, it may have gotten too much shade. We'll go through what they've said. But I want to explain why you would want to grow this plant in the first place. I grow it all the time. I have it in a bunch of my systems. And it's not just a water condition thing because I've got videos where I show it's getting mottled shade, it's getting full shade, it's getting no shade. It's all the same water, multiple tanks, one circulation, and it's completely dead. It's doing okay. And where the heavy shade is, for me, in my summer, it's thriving as long as it gets some sun. So the 2 tanks I have that have the most of it right now, they're going to get some sun for about an hour and a half in the morning, and then it's pretty much full shade. But it's still glancing light, bouncing light, that type of thing. But it's 37% protein by dry weight. Almost everything we eat eats it. Ducks eat it. Chickens eat it. Lambs will eat it. Sheep will eat it. Goats will eat it. You'd have to grow a lot of it to feed cows with it, but cows will eat it. It's also, since it fixes nitrogen, it's literally living fertilizer. You can just spread this stuff around your plants and they'll give them all the nitrogen that they need. It's got so much nitrogen in it because of the fixation that if you just pile it up, you can make compost with one ingredient, Azolla, and it's amazing compost. So you see why somebody would want to grow it. So I just wanted to qualify that before I give you this question. He says, how can I grow Azolla in a kiddie pool? More details. I'm in Lebanon, PA, about an hour's drive from Pottsville. That's where I grew up. That's why he mentions it. I brought mail order Azolla. I put it in a small pool about 4 foot round. I put a few scoops of cow manure in one of garden soil at the bottom. Let it sit for a few days before the Azolla came. I put it in a shady spot, but still some sun. After about a week, it's all dead, and the water is full of mosquito larvae. What can I do different? Well, let's talk about some things you could do different here. Number one, I would advise you to repeat this experiment with, go get 2 more kiddie pools. You already know that location was a problem, so get a little bit more sun, and a little bit more sun, okay? I wouldn't worry so much about giving it a lot of nutrient. And it's possible, not probable, but possible that you gave it too much manure and you burned it because it doesn't really need any nitrogen. It fixes its own. So you can over nitrogen something. I've also seen it. I know you said it's in the shade. Maybe even give it a place with more shade because when it gets too much sun, this is what happens. And you can decide for yourself if this is what happens. It goes from bright green to light green to a reddish brown to black, and it's dead. And it makes that progression every time it's getting too much sun. If that happened, maybe it actually got too much sun. In your climate, I doubt it. I would think it would do pretty well in almost full sun in your climate. Okay. The mosquito larvae, separate issue, but the cow manure probably makes it worse. It makes it very attractive. You have 2 choices. One, if you're doing other aquatic stuff and you have mosquito fish, Gambrusia, which are basically the North American guppy, except they don't get all the pretty colors like the real guppies, but they survive freezing temperatures as long as the water doesn't freeze solid. Throw them in there. Throw them in there. They need oxygen. Yeah, they do. We'll get to that, but they would live in there anyway. But you could throw them in there. You will not have a mosquito problem. You probably don't have them. And if you don't have somewhere nearby, and they're not really that heavily populated that far north. I never really saw them. Like when I was a kid growing up in PA fishing and stuff, like down in Florida, I didn't even know what they were back then, but I know now the minnows we used to catch and fish for bluegills with and stuff, they were Gambrusia, is BT ducks. So if you're doing anything without fish in it, with standing water, you're going to have a mosquito problem. Okay. No matter where you are, you're going to have a mosquito problem. You think if I'm in a really dry climate, I won't. Well, no, you're going to have a much bigger one because you have a magnet for the ones that are there. And skanky, non-moving water, they love that. The other thing you might want to do is consider doing something to circulate the water a little bit. I mean, a little bitty pump. Like just moving the water. Like a lot of the little aquarium pumps, I'm talking about something that would fit in your hand, $10, $15. They have suction cups on them. You can literally suction cup that to the side of the pool and make it angle up where it kind of makes the water go a little bit of a circle and disturbs the top just a little bit. That would be enough to get some oxygen in there. Or a small, like aquarium-sized air pump and one of the long stones, the stones that are about 10 to 12 inches long, that in there creating some air. You might even, let me see, do I have one? I do. I'm going to go grab it real quick. You might even consider using one of these little, and I'll look this up on Amazon for you and add a link in the audio notes today. This is a solar-powered air pump. So it has a little solar panel on it that stands up, and you got an air tube right here. You've got some adjustment that you can make and an on and off button. And these are great. These are awesome, and they take so little energy to actually work that these little solar panels, as long as you set it somewhere where it actually gets sun, they'll run almost nonstop for you, and they have enough power reserve they'll get through most of the nights. But you probably want some level, even if you're just growing Azolla for the sake of Azolla, of some water disturbance. And that's going to help with getting oxygen to those little roots that are sitting down there in the water. My best guess is this water got too mucky, too deoxygenated, even without anything living in it. The mosquitoes love that. And basically, the roots of your Azolla probably got clogged up with junk and garbage and choked them to death. So I would try all of that. I would try, one, do something to mitigate the mosquitoes. Two, whenever you try to grow Azolla for the first time, set up 2 or 3 environments. And what's going to inevitably happen, it's going to love one. And when you find the one that it loves, run with that and do some level of disturbance with your water, some level of oxygenation. And I would say throw fish in it. It will do better with fish. Go to Petco or PetSmart, and for a kiddie pool, so that the goldfish don't eat, because the goldfish will eat too, you could get like 10 feeder goldfish, the little like 10-cent ones. Just get the smallest ones so they eat the least amount of Azolla while it's getting established. Throw those in there if you can't get Gambrosia, and give it some oxygen. And just the whole thing will work better for you. Well, what do I do at the end of the season if I don't want to, be in aquaponics and stuff? Go fishing. Take all your feeder goldfish. You'll be 3 times bigger, and use them for bass. Don't get caught by the rabbit sheriff. I think that they don't let you do that in Pennsylvania because they'll turn into carp. No, they are carp, and you have carp everywhere anyway. It's dumb. Down here in Texas is a common thing. People use them for catfish all the time. You go to the PetSmart or Petco. You get the feeder goldfish. You get the bigger ones, little comets. They're about 14 cents a piece, 18 cents a piece, something like that. And people go and get 100. And the person at the pet store is like, "You're going fishing, aren't you?" "Yeah." Like, "Here you go." And they buy bait at Petco, right? Because it's pretty cheap and it's great catfish bait. So go fishing with them. Let them go somewhere there's carp already. Feed them to your ducks. Give them away. Do whatever you want. But you're going to be better with some fish in there. The other thing you could do, Pennsylvania, every little pond is full of tiny little bluegills. Go get 10 bluegills. The smallest ones you can get your hands on, throw them in there, and then just turn them back. There's no size limit on bluegills in Pennsylvania. There is a quantity limit, but that's not going to be a problem. So those are the different ways I would think about handling that. Next, this is a hard one. I'm going to be very general. I'm not going to read this guy's very long, well thought out letter. I may do a whole show on this, but I wanted to speak about it a little bit today. But his bottom line up front, at what point does government become a tyranny to the point where the actions of an individual or group against it be viewed as a moral obligation or a duty? There is the old thing that, when tyranny becomes law, revolution becomes duty. And I think that when you're at a point where the will of the people is ignored, even at the point of elections, when the ballot box is no longer valid at all, and I don't mean the way I view it. I mean, it just isn't. You're getting there. Yeah. All right. Like, how close are we to this point? It's part of why I don't even want to talk about it. We're not there, but shit. Do you not feel like that's exactly the destination we're headed to? Let's look at it differently. Let's go back to the former Soviet Union. And I'm talking the height of the Soviet Union. I'm not talking about the Soviet Union being on its knees about to fall apart in 1987. I'm talking about the Soviet Union, let's say 1968, 1969. What would you have said if a group of Russians rose up at that point and tried to overthrow the Soviet government to free the Soviet Union? You would have said they were heroes. They were revolutionaries, right? Especially if you were living here and you were part of our propaganda machine. What would you have said of Germans who rose up against the Nazis? Heroes, right? My wife's grandfather received equivalent of 3 Medal of Freedoms back when it meant something. It was the equivalent of the Congressional Medal of Honor for civilians. So he received the Medal of Freedom plus 2 bronze decorations. I can't remember. It's like a palm leaf or something they put on it back then for that award. And he was part of the underground. I mean, literally what they were doing was killing Nazis and getting people out of Europe. And this was in the Netherlands during the occupation. And he was recognized as a hero for it. What I'm saying is there is this concept today that if you rise up against your own government, you have to be wrong. And I don't know exactly where that line is. And I think I will save that for an in-depth episode. But there is a line. And I think all we have to do to accept that there is a line is say, well, when would you? When would you? If they start going around, rounding up any individual group of people and shooting them, is that too far? Is that when it's time for armed resistance? I think most people would say yes. So somewhere between here and there, there's a point where the majority of people feel that way before we go that far. There really is. And it is a very scary subject to speak about. It's a very serious subject. And there's dark humor around it. And most of the dark humor around it, I've talked about this before, it comes from prior service military. Call it the boogaloo or whatever. And people think it's funny. And what you don't understand if you were never in the military is it's really not humor that's meant for you. It's dark, sadistic humor. It falls in with things like live, laugh, toaster bath, okay, which is something that's starting to make a resurgence. Now, let me tell you, live, laugh, toaster bath, that goes all the way back to late 80s, early 90s. Soldiers saying shit like that. Live, laugh, toaster bath. If you don't understand that, I don't know what to say. What you're saying when you say live, laugh, toaster bath. Or, gee, every day when I come in, sir, I wonder if that limb on that tree could hold my weight. Shit like that. And just understand, when you hear prior service military talking about shit like that, that's the point that they're coming from. There is something about having a job where even if your job, like I was a mechanic or whatever, but you can get deployed, you can get killed, you can get blown up. It's part of your job. That the way you cope with it is dark humor. And when you hear dark humor about shit like this, understand it is a coping mechanism. But it is not one that you should take so seriously that you take the outcome lightly. The worst things that have ever happened as far as war were always when both sides thought, we'll just kick their ass and it'll be over. Like, look what a clusterfuck disaster Afghanistan turned into. You know what? Everybody thought in the beginning, most powerful military in the world, we'll just go kill those goat fuckers. Yeah? And in trillions of dollars spent, 2 decades, the United States managed to replace the Taliban with the Taliban. As we were leading up to the withdrawal, we were told, you will not see what happened in Vietnam happen in Afghanistan. And what happened? Same exact fucking thing. And it's always when both sides, or at least one side, thinks, we got this. There's nothing to worry about. American Civil War. American Civil War. The first battles of the American Civil War, fucking people had picnics. Women and children and shit came out to watch the battle from a distance. Jeff says the goal wasn't to win. It actually was, but not the way that people think. The goal was to go there, occupy the land, and never leave. That was the Bush doctrine. That's where that all came from. Oliver Stone did a movie on George Bush, and Oliver Stone is a leftist. I'll give you that and all, but he does a pretty good job with his movies of being somewhat accurate. And the one on Bush, you learn all about that concept, and it was really Cheney who was the brainchild behind it. We were going to go into this whole area and never leave, at least 100 years. It's disgusting. But whenever we end up in this point where we think it'll just be easy, there's a shitload of people that think, well, if the American people rise up against their government, the soldiers, the Marines, etc., they're all going to step on the other side of the line and be with their brothers and sisters. They're not going to shoot their brothers and sisters. I'm going to tell you what I think. And this is someone who served and was around a lot of people that served before and after the fact. You're right and you're wrong. There is a huge block of them that will say, nope, I'm not doing this. And they'll either step away or they'll step across the line and turn around and face that which they prior served. And about half of them won't. They will shoot you. They will kill you. They will drone bomb you. They will drop a goddamn mortar round on your house if they're ordered to do so. Years ago, this subject came up. I was at an event, nothing to do with this stuff. It was a permaculture event with Sepp Holzer up in Montana. And there was a younger guy than me, probably 5 years, 10 years younger than me. And he had just gotten out of the Marine Corps. And I remember his face because he looked so much like a good friend I had who also joined the Air Force when I was in high school. He looked like him, and he looked like the younger version of him that I remembered. And he had the same facial expressions that my friend Nick had. And there was somebody sitting there, and they said exactly that. They didn't think that U.S. troops would fire on U.S. citizens. And I looked at this guy, and I literally saw my friend Nick from high school's face and could read the expression. And the expression was, boy, is he wrong. Of course they will. And I gave him the same look. We just looked at each other, and we didn't really say much back to the people talking about it because why? What's the point? But yeah, they'll shoot you. Yes, they will. And all they have to be convinced is that you're actually bad. That's like, arson is a serious crime. Blowing up buildings is a serious crime. Insurrection against your government is a serious crime, especially if your government's doing what it's supposed to do. And don't think that all of these young bucks that are in the military are fully aware of the Constitution they swore an oath to. I was probably better informed than most, and I didn't know shit. I had good teachers in school. Compared to what I know now, I didn't know shit. Remember who you're talking about. The backbone of the military is 18 to 22. 18 to 22, you give them a gun and say, go shoot somebody. Be careful, guys. Be careful with this talk, this discussion, this mindset, all of it. God forbid it ever happens. God forbid. But there is no war bloodier than a civil war. It doesn't exist. And with the weapons capabilities that we have today in this country, and the sheer number of armed people, which is a deterrent to it. But if it goes, holy crap. Holy crap. Like what went on in the Balkans will look like a trip to Disney compared to if that shit happens here. Just scores being settled once you know you can. Gangs, right? Groups, families, people that just hate each other. And then it creates a cascade. Be really careful with this thinking. Let's talk about something a little bit better than that, a little lighter, I guess. How about you want variety today? How to teach a rooster not to be a dick. Like I said, I've got this rooster. I got lucky to get him. But he's a Jersey Giant rooster. He's going to be 10, 12 pounds, maybe bigger. I mean, you're talking small turkey, right? When he matures, he's going to have spurs, 1.5 inches, 1.75 inches long, and pointed and sharp. He will probably get his spurs trimmed, right? And I'll have to give him some treats after that so he forgives me, so he doesn't hold it against me. And I don't want him coming after me, and I definitely don't want him going after, like, my 8-year-old granddaughter, right? I don't want her. It's like today she went to feed them, and they were out of food, so they had like a whole flock, ducks, chickens, geese, everybody, like, followed her. It freaked her out because they were just following her, right? She thought they were coming after her. They just wanted the food. I don't want that happening. This guy says he recently moved. He's now able to own a rooster for the first time. We got a New Hampshire rooster. Is a baby chick this spring, and he just started to crow. I'm hoping he won't end up being a jerk and end up in the freezer. Is there anything we can do or any behavior we can have around him that will prevent him from attacking us when he gets older? Number one, do not molest, bother, or feed by hand in his presence his hens. That's his job, not yours. A rooster does not say, I'm going to attack people because people exist. A 5 to 12 pound bird does not want to fight a 200-pound man. He's going to lose. But if you fight the rooster, it will reinforce his delusion. His view of you are a threat to his place and his flock. And think about why he might feel this way. You close the door on the coop. You open the door on the coop. You shoo the birds away from the location you don't want them in. You bring the food. You bring the water. If you don't bring the food, there is no food. You don't bring the water, there is no water. You are the food god. You are the water god. You are the creator of all. You are the government, right? You built the house. You built the containment field. You set the regulations. You're the chicken government. Have you ever thought of it? Whenever we manage livestock, we're their government. Yeah? Okay? Makes you look at government a little bit differently. And he can actually get into the point. Remember, his brain is very literal pea brain. That is another rooster. He wants my hens. I'm going to kick his ass. And anybody that looks like him must be another rooster, and I need to kick their ass too. And gee, that little one of those things looks easier to kick. They go after kids, right? Spur you in the leg. The number one thing you can do to prevent a rooster from turning against you is feed your rooster. By hand or as close to by hand as that rooster will eat from you. And here's why. If you pay attention, well, you'll see a lot of times with roosters, and it's really cool when you think about it. A hen that finds a really tasty thing, she's going to eat it. Like everybody's played the game. You find like a grub when you're in the garden, you throw it, and one chicken takes off with it, and everybody goes chasing after, and she runs away. But check out what roosters do, right? A rooster will find like a tastiest tidbit, especially if there's 4 or 5 of them. He might eat 1 or 2, and then he'll like peck at it. He'll make a noise. He'll call one of the hens over. He'll give it to her. Sometimes he steps out of the way and lets her have it. I've seen roosters literally pick it up and feed their hens. Now, you know what you'll never see? A rooster offer another rooster food. One rooster will never feed another rooster. When you feed that rooster, when you provide, and I don't mean just throw it on the ground, put it in the feeder. I mean, you make it clear to him, I'm offering you food. You're not a rooster to him. You'll break the delusion before it ever happens. It also helps to recognize, just like when we train dogs, recognize when the animal's under stress, recognize when the animal's telling you you're doing something wrong. If you watch roosters, like they do this thing with their side where they move hens, right? And if you see him doing that specifically when you're around, he's pushing her away from you. That means he sees you as a threat. Otherwise, he wouldn't do it. Another thing, when they start following you and they're pecking the ground like they're eating, but they're not eating, they're just pretending to eat. They're pretending and they're following you. That's basically, they're not necessarily being aggressive yet, but they're concealing the fact that they're following you. They're looking for an ambush point if necessary. When you see that behavior, you need to break it. Talk to him nicely. Don't be like, get away from me, asshole. I'm going to kick your ass. Chickens don't understand your words, I promise you, but they understand your inflection, your voice, your attitude, your appearance. They probably can read things in us that we don't even understand, either like our body temperature, respiration, whatever, the way dogs can. They can certainly see or hear or feel things that we're not accustomed to. They live in a different world. Everything eats them. They are prey to everything, right? So they have a different sensitivity. So when you're like that, that bird knows like this motherfucker wants a fight. Now, he probably doesn't want a head-on fight with you. He knows you're a bigger rooster. So what's he want to do now? Now he wants to kind of like, I'll get that bitch. I'll sneak up on him. And that was my guy, Billy Roy. The only thing saved him is he weighed like a pound. He was a bantam. He couldn't really hurt anybody, right? But he was always chasing people and whatever. And I never bothered with him. I actually thought it was funny that I had people come over to visit and Billy Roy would go after him. I don't want this head. So those are the things you can do. Feed him. Never molest his hens. Like when you go in to check on birds in the coop, let's say you have to clip wings. If I'm going to do that, I'm going to wait till everybody's in the coop and everybody's chill and everybody's in that kind of chicken trance. I'm going to go straight to the rooster. I'm going to take him out. I'm going to do his work first, his wing clipping, let's say. I'm going to put him in a cage and I'm going to take him away from his hens. I don't want him to even hear them getting upset. I'm going to take the hens one by one and clip their wings and put them back on the roost. I'm going to go get the rooster and I'm going to bring him back. As far as he knows, I only jacked with him. I didn't bother his hens. He's not that worried about himself. He's very selfless. Roosters are. He's worried about his hens. You go into his, think about what you've done. If you don't do what I just said, he's sitting there chilling out. You walk in, you grab his hens, and they get all upset. He's pissed as shit. He's doing that shit they do, or he's doing that growl noise they make. When you hear that growl noise, it's like a cat. When cats go like, you got a problem. But when a cat does like like that noise, you're like, oh shit, this cat's fixing to go psycho. Roosters make a similar noise. When they make that noise, they are done. They're about ready to go full on psycho on you, right? So you've messed with his hands right in front of him, and he's unable to do anything about it. His little pea brain is going to hold a grudge on you. So we remove the rooster. We do the work with the hens. And I don't advise this, but I promise you this will happen. If you have a rooster sitting on the perch with his hens. Now, if you've hand trained these birds, this probably won't happen. If you have birds that you can just pick up, put on your shoulder, hang out with, put in your lap and pet, then this might not happen. But if they're not that conditioned to you, and most people, we don't do that with our chickens. We don't have time for that shit. And so when you touch that hen, if she's like nervous and shit, if you do that in front of him, he will bite you, right? He will bite you like before he even really knows what he is. I've had that happen. You have young roosters. They're not even really showing yet. And the way you know it's a rooster is you're doing something, and all of a sudden that bird reaches out and bites the back of your hand. I promise you that wasn't a hen. I'm not saying hens never bite. I'm like, if you're messing with a different bird and another chicken bites you, unless it's her baby, it's not a hen. It's a rooster. That's one way you'll recognize them. So just don't create a situation where he feels that you're a threat to his hierarchy. That's his flock. You are his keeper, and he'll take care of the flock. You have to think a little bit different with them, and you have to realize, I'll just slap his ass down. You'll win the fight, and you'll lose the war, and you'll end up with your rooster in a crock pot, or you'll end up with a kid with a hole in the leg. And let me tell you why this is important, and you got to be with kids, and if you got roosters, you got to really teach your kids this. I mean, I just saw something, and fuck them, I don't care that happened to the guy. I think that the sport of cockfighting is disgraceful. This is where they take fighting roosters and they make them fight each other until one rooster kills the other rooster, and they bet on it. It's like pit bull fighting with chickens. And when I posted about this recently, because somebody showed this video I'm talking about, somebody said, you're white knighting for chickens. You kill chickens all the time. This is, I kill chickens with respect. I don't do it for my amusement, for no real purpose, right? And make them suffer. I think anybody that does that shit is sick. I don't care if it's a worm, right? About the only thing I'm okay with you killing that way is a fire ant. And if you have enough time to do that, you probably have too much time on your hands. But this guy sets his fighting rooster down. This guy might have bled to death for all we know. That rooster immediately turned around as he's walking away, came back and spurred him in the calf, and like blood just starts, like looked like an arterial wound. So when you think about 1 to 2 inch long, dagger sharp puncture wounds is what these animals are capable of, especially larger breeds. I mean, I played a video on the air of one that killed a hawk. If you look up rooster kills hawk, you will find the video. It's backyard. It's like an American game rooster, and the hawk comes in chasing the hens, and all that hawk had to do was give up and leave. He came back for a second shot. That rooster came out and flattened his ass, killed his ass dead. Right? So just be careful in these situations. Also know you can clip spurs. Just like clipping toenails. Look up how to do it. There's a right way to do it. I've seen people actually pull them off. There's a way to do that. I'm not a fan of that. I think they need them to do their job, but they don't necessarily need to be needle sharp. And you can take, a third of an inch off of the spurs a couple times a year. Doesn't really hurt them. And do it at night. Do it first thing at night so they sleep through the night, and it never happened by morning. And don't mess with the daggone hens in a way that upsets them in front of that bird. It will immediately piss him off, and he will immediately see you as an enemy. And I would just say it this way. Let's say you're out and about, and somebody starts distressing your children, like a grown-ass man starts upsetting your 5-year-old little girl or your wife. How quick are you to start laying some hands, man, and saying that you're messing with my family? You're messing with my wife? No, I'm not going to allow it. And if the guy's bigger than you, do you care? If he's bigger than you, how much bigger is he than your kid or your wife? You're going to go full on to protect what's yours. So will he. It's not as different as we think it is. Another guy asked me about using a pool. So he has a 200-gallon, basically kiddie pool. I'm thinking more like a stock tank or something that the kids soak in, play in, and whatever, and cool off in. And he has been using the water to irrigate with his lawn and garden. And he would like to take longer in between filling it up. And he wants to use chlorine. And his concern, the chickens must know I'm talking about it because one just jumped up on the bar. She needs to go. But he wants to use chlorine so he can go longer before the water gets skanky. But then he's worried about the irrigation. So the thing about this, and it will only be moderately effective, and what you might want to use is a small floater like you use in a hot tub, and the chlorine tablets that you use in a hot tub. And probably just like for that much, like one tablet in the little mini floater in the water. That'll be fine. This is chlorine. This is not chloramine plus chlorine plus fluoride, all the shit they put in your drinking water. Okay? It's straight up chlorine. And it off-gasses really fast. All you got to do is about a day and a half, 2 days, maybe 3 days before you want to dump that water, take it out. There'll be very little of it left by the time you use it. You can put it in buckets and dump it back and forth to off-gas. That's a lot of water to do that with. And I will say that, like, it is interesting to me how people stress out about chlorine in water, and then they turn around and use tap water to irrigate their plants, which has chlorine in it, plus chloramine, which is almost impossible to get rid of without specific chemical and chemistry additives that are used to remove it. So I just wouldn't stress about it. I would also tell you that it's not going to be that effective unless you put some sort of circulator in it. And it's going to be very difficult to balance it long term. It's probably, you can do what I just said. It's probably not worth it. Move it around. So you move the irrigation around and dump it after every use. 200 gallons is not that much water. Now, if you're using like a 6-foot stock tank, you may think it's 200 gallons and seem like, wow, this is a lot of water. A 6-foot round, 2-foot deep stainless steel stock tank like you get from Tractor Supply or whatever, Atwood's, is 470 gallons of capacity. 200 gallons isn't anywhere near that much. So I'm wondering what you're actually using. You're calling a pool for the kids. But I just I just wouldn't do it with that small amount of water, without a filtration system, without a circulating system. I don't think it's worth it. I would just, whenever the water looks like it needs to be changed, change it. And I would probably, look, you're risking your kid's health. You're talking about parasites, amoebas, and shit like that can end up in there after just a little bit of use. You're talking about a very small tank. You have no filtration, no real water movement. I would just accept that this is what it is. And again, what you can do then is move it, or I would think that something at least 200 gallons and up as a stock tank should have some sort of a drain plug. And you should be able to hook up a valve to that. And then you could just use volumetric pressure and put a hose wherever you want it. And you don't have to move the tank. You could just move where the water goes. And 200 gallons a day of irrigation for me is a joke. I mean, I do more than that in duck pools. So that's my thoughts on that one. Hopefully that makes sense. And then the last one is a person who's asking me about keto. The person says they're doing keto and they are breastfeeding, and that might slow down weight loss. Unless you're eating a lot to compensate for it, probably not. If anything, it would probably accelerate weight loss because you're giving up a certain amount of calories that you're taking in, using it to lactate and produce milk and feeding it to your child. So I have sent this to Ken. He's just been slow on answers lately, so I thought I'd give you my answer. This is a 42-year-old breastfeeding woman, started keto a month and a half ago. By the way, that's not that long. I lost 11 pounds in my first 3 weeks, but I haven't lost an ounce since then. So that's about 3 weeks of losing weight and 3 weeks of not losing weight. Let me read the rest of it. I'm very strict with my diet. I don't do dirty keto. I eat only whole foods, non-starchy, and meat. I keep my carbs under 25 a day, calories under 1,500, fat under 75 grams. I need to lose 75 pounds to be at a healthy weight for my height, so I have plenty to lose. I do the ketosis strips, and I'm definitely in ketosis. What am I doing wrong? Okay. Great detailed question. I don't have a lot of suggestions here. One thing I would tell anybody that has this problem that's not being as religious about following the program is to get the Keto app. You can find it at Keto, Keto.app, and I have a link in the show notes today. And I will tell you that calories do matter. Ken Berry will tell you they do not, and I will tell you calories matter. I have worked with way too many people in a similar situation. And when you do the math, you have a 5'4", and I don't know how, I'm not talking about this woman here. One particular instance, 5'4" woman, 228 pounds, keeping the carbs, under 25 a day, just like this. Caloric intake, 4,100 calories. Can't figure out why she can't lose weight. Woman was drinking so much creamed coffee, she was putting out about 1,500 calories a day just in coffee. This woman's eating 1,500 calories total a day. So I would say also go back through, and when you say 25 carbs a day, do you mean all carbs or net carbs? You say you're not doing dirty keto, so it shouldn't be an issue. But, if you're eating carb-free tortillas, they're not carb-free and they spike your blood sugar. But you're in ketosis, so you're probably not doing that. I would say this may have something to do with holding on to some baby weight and the fact that you're breastfeeding. Again, I hope Ken will answer it too and tell me what he thinks about this. Tell us what he thinks. But if you really want to lose the weight, the things that I would add to what you're doing already. One, I would not go less than 1,500 calories. If you're 75 pounds over and you're at 1,500 calories, you are in a caloric deficit. To move your body around with that much extra weight, you're definitely in a caloric deficit. But your metabolism is holding back the weight release. Number two, I would tell you that a month and a half and losing 11 pounds, the total loss isn't that bad. How long did it take you to put all the weight on? So some modicum of patience. My instinct is you are not physically active enough. Doesn't say anything about exercise. Doesn't say anything about physical activity. But if everything else is dialed in, and I know when you have a new baby, man, you feel like you're active all the time, but are you mentally tired and physically tired are different. And the funny thing is, when we get enough activity to become physically tired for a time and then recuperate, even under stress, we're less mentally tired. So I would say, like, you need to either start like power walking, doing some weightlifting. You're far enough now, I guess, from having the baby that you should be able to get into, like, and maybe you're not ready yet, but you got to get some physical activity going on. And then I would take a good hard look at this carbohydrate claim. And then the other thing I would suggest that you strongly consider, go carnivore. And I know there's a lot of people that won't go carnivore but I've given up so much. I don't eat donuts. I don't eat candy. I don't even eat freaking rice or potatoes. I'm not giving up spinach. I'm not giving up broccoli. I'm not giving up lettuce. Like, I've got to have something. I get it. I didn't say forever. Go carnivore. And the other thing I don't get here is a meal frequency. Try 2 Mad Carnivore. 2 Mad Carnivore, all meat, dairy, things with a face. No vegetables. Zero. It either had a face or it came from something that had a face. And no milk, because milk is sugar, lactose, right? So cream, yes. Good quality, high-end cheese, yes. Minimize that, though, because it's very high calories. And stick to fatty meats, beef, bacon, butter, and eggs. Ken Berry special. See if it unsticks you. And if it unsticks you, after 2 or 3 weeks, start adding back the things that made up your 25 carbs a day. If you stick again, wean back off them. When you hit target weight, it is inevitable that you'll be able to probably eat 1,800 calories a day. Do your 25, maybe even, who knows, 50 carbs a day. Stay clean diet, and you'll maintain that weight no problem. But you are in a stuck spot. So when you're in a stuck spot, do something different. Do anything different. If you're in a car and every time you hit the accelerator, the wheel spins and you keep doing it, the car goes deeper and deeper, it never gets out. Put it in reverse. Stick something for traction under it. Jack it up and shove a board under it. When something isn't working, change something. And if you know the direction you're trying to go, change it in that direction, and it'll probably work out for you. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I'm sure I missed questions and comments. I got about 5 to go through, and I'm about to do that now. If you have any more, go ahead and drop them in, and I'll answer them. And I'm going to lightning round this stuff. Rep Fallon this is from Trammell, said Rep Fallon just buried Cheeto. I keep calling her Cheeto. By the way, if you don't know why I'm calling her Cheeto, when Elon Musk found out that before she became director of Secret Service, she worked as the head of security for PepsiCo. He said, in other words, until last year, she was guarding Cheetos. I'm going to be fair to Cheeto. She was a Secret Service agent in the 90s. She was on Bush's detail on the day 9/11 happened. She was on Biden's detail. And I think she was pretty close to Jill, and that might be how she ended up getting the job, through nepotism and less DEI. Who knows? You should go back to guarding Doritos. Oh, okay. So this rep told her that she should go back to guarding Doritos. She may have to after this, though. She may not have that option. If I'm a private company, I don't want her right now. Her future is probably as a lobbyist, because she'll still have connections. Maybe. I mean, this is as bad as it gets. Question from Larry. If Biden is dropping out from the race, why is the 25th not being invoked? Well, why would it be, Larry? Why would it be? Did they invoke the 25th Amendment on Lyndon Johnson? Did they? No, they didn't. Just because the president says I don't want to run again doesn't mean you invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, is there cause for the 25th Amendment? Sure. But not running is not. The two are not connected. Not the way you're inferring. It's not like if the president says I'm not running for re-election, we have to invoke the 25th Amendment. That's a separate discussion. It's not being invoked because it's not good for the Democrats if they do it. That's the only reason. Now, it might happen. I have a What do you call a conspiracy theory that hasn't happened yet? Like a prediction of a conspiracy. Okay. I think there's a God's honest chance that once they anoint Queen Kamala and they start running the polls, and it turns out maybe they get a little bump right after the convention with the and all the crap that they do and this new excitement and whatever. But going a week or two out and they start running polls and they start seeing Kamala doing worse than Biden. When something's not working, what did I just say in my last segment? Do something, anything different, right? Do something different. Well, you might at that point, a month into it, 2 months out from the election, something like that, decide that Kamala would have a better chance of winning if she were already president. She becomes an incumbent. So at that point, maybe you have another pressure campaign, probably a lot less public pressure campaign on Biden. Hey, why don't, it's over anyway. Why don't you just go to Rehoboth Beach, dude? Just chill. Just resign. Or maybe at that point, like, we don't know what's wrong. Like, that's why I opened up today. And, I've been on air for almost 2 hours right now. Maybe there's a video of Biden by now I don't know about. Maybe it's come out. Maybe there's at least a picture of him. Maybe there's some video of him walking across the lawn or something at least. But nobody's seen or heard from the guy. We do not know the president's physical condition right now. Again, I don't think it's quite Weekend at Bernie's. I don't think he's dead. But he may be really incapacitated right now. And he may not come back from it. And they may prop up the imagery if he's at least better enough to show him, shuffling across the lawn or something like that, and maybe speak for 30 seconds here and there. But he may be in a position where he becomes a legitimate target for the 25th. And the Democrats might see this strategically as a play for the election. I think I would give that a 65 to 70% chance of happening. That Biden is fully gone before the election. Whether it's the 25th or talking him into resignation, I don't know what it'll be. I know this. Any president with anything left in their brain, if they knew, if you don't, the 25th is coming, would resign. If they knew they couldn't prevent it from happening. So if I went to you and you worked for me, and the only way you'd say, go ahead, Jack, fire me, I'm not quitting, is if your plan is to draw unemployment. Yes, some low-level pissant position. The next employer you have is not going to care that you got fired versus you resigned, whatever. You might choose to let me fire you. If you are in a high-level position where the stink of firing, right, is going to follow you forever, and you have the opportunity to resign, you resign versus get fired every time. A president is not worried about what they do next, but they are concerned with their legacy. And no president wants to be known as the president thrown out under the 25th Amendment impeachment. I mean, Nixon resigned when he knew he couldn't stop impeachment. He didn't care he was going to get impeached. He cared that there was enough votes in the Senate to 86 his ass after the impeachment. So they could kind of tell him, like, dude, it's coming. Pragmatic Paradox says, what are your thoughts on the deep state allowing Trump back into office in order to crash the economy on his watch? I think if that was the plan, he wouldn't have just had a freaking bullet whiz by his ear. Now, politics is adaptation to the situation at hand, the art of the possible, and it's really the art of the probable. So that could become the plan. The thing is, I don't think Trump's policies will crash the economy. And I think a Trump presidency will be a net positive for the economy, at least over 4 years. I said this already. I think that when Trump becomes president, he'll be able to do some rabbit pulling that will actually make things better for a time. Now, I think if he was younger and he had 2 terms in him, he's going to be a Bush 2, right? Bush 1, he was the man in the re-election. All the hanging Chad shit went away, had a mandate, overwhelming victory. Lots of people hated him, but overall, he was very popular. He was still coming off the high of, I hear you, and the people that knock these buildings down will hear us all soon. And the last year of his administration destroyed his legacy. And I think that there's a very good chance it would be more like the second year of the second term before the full ramifications of everything we've done would come in. You know who might be sitting there dealing with that? An unknown Democrat. It's one of two people, an unknown Democrat or J.D. Vance. Either one. But there is, you know where this comes from? Uncle Ted, right? Uncle Ted said long ago in his manifesto, you don't want to be the party in power when everything goes to shit. You want to be out of power when everything goes to shit so you can blame the other side. So I don't know. I don't know that it's possible to just do that, right? Like that, it's kind of like if it happens, it happens, and maybe we can push it a little bit. You might, see things like the Fed go, oh, we got to worry about inflation again and start trying to jack rates up. Because the first thing Orange Man is going to want to do is push interest rates down for a very good reason. It will make him popular. If you took interest rates 2.5 points lower than they are right now, and the cost of a car, a house, etc., stays the same, your car payment on that new car just went down $175 a month. Same price. Your house payment dropped 2 points on the interest rate. And on that new house, I don't care where you're at, you're looking at somewhere between $200 to $1,000 a month, depending on how expensive the house is, in a lower house payment. Or the interest rates come down, you have good credit, you can refinance, and you had to buy at the top of the market on the interest rate. Again, you can reduce $200, $300, $400. Some expensive houses, $1,000 a month less. So what does that do? It spurs spending, makes the economy good for a while, heats it up, inflation kicks back in. Like we're trapped in this fiat nightmare. But I think you're going to get a reprieve under Trump as long as Trump gets elected. The only way I see Trump not getting elected, there's only two ways I see that not happening right now. I'm going to go three. One, completely unknown, something blows the world up like COVID did. Because without COVID, Trump would have been reelected in a landslide. That's what destroyed Trump's reelection. Okay? So an unknown, completely unknown. Number two is that he gets shot and killed for real. Right? That's the only other way. Number three, I see is less likely than the first two. But somebody here said it at the very beginning of this episode. If somewhere, somehow, in the tiny little brains of the liberal establishment, they realize, holy shit, if we figure out how to 86 Kamala and bring in RFK, I am not for RFK as our president. I think Trump's going to offer him a cabinet position. There was a leaked audio tape that kind of leans toward maybe Trump doing something like putting Bobby over NIH or something, or HHS or something. I think he'd be great at that. But I don't want him to be president. But what I'm saying, again, weatherman, you put RFK head-to-head with Donald Trump in this election, RFK won't just win. He will wipe the floor. He will wipe the floor with Trump because the Democrats will go, shit, we have to do it. All the people that were going to vote for Biden, they can say whatever they want about he's crazy or whatever. They're still going to vote for him. And the middle, between the name and the reputation, the middle that moves every election cycle, the middle that decides every election, the 5% of voters that decide 100% of the elections, they will gravitate to him like crazy. But I just don't see it happening. Question from Baz. Did anyone hear that the woman who was calmly filming the shooting on her phone was an FBI? I covered that. No, she was not. It's bullshit. Stop spreading bullshit. Stop propagating bullshit. One more time. Stop propagating bullshit. Stop this shit. Did you hear? I heard somebody said it's bullshit. If you can't source it with proof, stop repeating it. You are the echo chamber causing the stupid shit. You are the people who are being used by the people you think you are fighting to make anybody that says anything in opposition to whatever narrative they come up with. You are those people. They're feeding you this misinformation to make all of us sound stupid. That is not what happened. And some woman sitting on her phone, staring at it, looking around, moving around, and fidgeting is not something to get your ass up in a wad about. This is spreading now. They're looking for anybody on any tape, in any audience. I'm talking about the crazies, in any part of the audience anywhere that was filming weird or moving weird or didn't react the way they. This is stupid. This is stupid. This is witch hunting, and it always ends badly. Paul Hopkins, thanks for the $10 super chat. I really appreciate that. Looking real quick, I don't think any more questions came in. Oh, one more question. Jeff said, with civilians being killed and injured, do you think this opens security, Secret Service up to something that they can't internally sweep under the rug? No. They swept the Kennedy assassination under the rug, didn't they? And the fucking president died on their watch. Governor Connolly ended up with a bullet in his ass on their watch. They swept that under the rug. And you know what happened? You know what happened at the JFK assassination? The third shot wasn't from Oswald. And it wasn't from the grassy knoll. It wasn't the CIA. It wasn't J. Edgar Hoover's ghost or whatever the fuck you come up with. It was a Secret Service agent in the follow car who accidentally shot JFK with the killing shot. There's a documentary on Amazon called The Smoking Gun. If you actually watch the whole thing without your head up your ass, without thinking that means that the CIA was the CIA working Oswald? Probably. It doesn't change what I just said. Both things can be true at the same time. But yeah, I don't think that they will in any way be prevented from sweeping this under the rug. One of the reps doing questioning hit it perfectly. They said to Secret Service, Karen, here's what always happens. You guys always promise something. It's always 60 days or 6 months out. It's always insufficient when we get it, and no change ever happens. Don't expect it to be any different here. Don't expect it to be any different here at all. Real quick, before we get wrapped up completely, I want to let you guys know that I have a really cool item of the day for you guys today. It is a collapsible rain barrel. This thing's awesome. I put out a video on it today, too. It holds 100 gallons of water. It's really well built. It's a very heavy duty PVC material that it's built out of. It has 6 rods that come with it to provide rigidity on the side so it stands up even when it's empty. You do want to put a little bit of water in the bottom of it when you set it up just for some stability. I'm talking like 2 or 3 gallons and let the rest can be collected. There's a ton that can be done with it. Since today went long, I don't want to talk too long about this here at the end. I'm just going to encourage you to check it out. But there's a lot of things you can do with it beyond just using a rain barrel. First of all, I do want to say if you're trying to set up like 1,000 gallons of rain catchment, I probably wouldn't use 10 of these. I would use IBCs. But if you want portable, flexible rain catchment, these are great. There's also bladders that Vivor makes that are more like a flat solution. And there's one that's like 75 gallons and one that's like 170 gallons. Those are both made out of the same material. I have all of them in the write-up together because you know what else you can do with this? You know when a storm's coming, you know it's going to freeze. You're going to be going to buy bottles of water. Throw that thing in the bathtub and fill it up. And then you've got a reserve water supply. How about an outdoor shower? It's black. It's black. Elevated enough, or throw a bilge pump in it with a 12-volt with a bilge pump with a float valve, right? A little bitty like deer feeder 12-volt battery would work for it. You throw the pump in, it's got a float valve. When the float valve goes up, the pump comes on. Hook it up to a hose with a little shower thing. Like it'd make a great solar shower. It would be just any time you needed water. What a great way to store water. How about you get the same bilge pump, long enough wire to clip to your battery or a little portable battery. You need water. Water's out from a disaster. Throw one of these things in the back of your pickup truck. Listen to my video and read my write-up for the cautions that come with this. But you can go to any creek, any ditch, any place where there's water. Throw that bilge pump in there, fill this thing up, bring 100 gallons of water home. There's a lot of flexibility beyond just a garden irrigation system with these. I really recommend that you check them out. And remember, you can do all your online shopping starting at T-Spaz. All my reviews there are either Vivor or Amazon reviews. You can help this show no matter what you buy if you start your shopping there. And if you're shopping with Vivor, 5% off anything and everything that you buy, whether I've reviewed it or not. Just start at tspaz.com. Links for everything in the notes below or in the audio notes if you're an audio consumer only. T River Rat has a quick last-minute question, and it's on the product, so I have to answer it. Can the rain barrels get swampy? Do they need maintenance? If you leave water in anything long enough, it can get kind of dank and nasty. These are not for potable water drinking. This is for irrigation, cleaning, etc. That's going to be mitigated by that. Really, hardly any light can get in. There's a screened thing in the center of the top, which is really cool. The top kind of goes concave. And so any water that hits the top ends up in the barrel. I show in the video, I'm using a little sprinkler for that. But you might want to throw, an ounce of bleach in there once a month or something to help with that. With my water barrels, I've always thrown goldfish in them. Just like 3 or 4 goldfish, or like I don't do that anymore. Now I just net some Gambrosia and throw them in there. If they die, they die. But you can still get mosquitoes going in, right, and breeding in there. So that takes care of that. And Gambrosia, if you have them in other systems, you just every couple of weeks throw some in there. If you don't see them still swimming around in there, they'll take care of the mosquitoes for you, or a little BT dunk. But these are not for potable water. That's it. Even in the video, I say, if you're a Gen Xer, you drank more water out of a hose between your age of about 5 and 20 than you drank out of a sink, didn't you? You think that water, come on, right? Sitting there long-term is a permanent solution. No, in a emergency situation, short-term emergency, and it's water that I know was clean when I put it in there, and I put it through a Berkey in case anything got skanky while it was in there, would I drink it? Hell yes. Hell yes. But I would try to have other reserves in water for drinking water. This would be for washing, cleaning, scrubbing. One of the other things I thought about that these would be great for, and I think that the 75-gallon bladder that's in the ride-up too might be great for this. I go surf fishing all the time. Down on the Texas coast, it's about a 5.5-hour drive. Again, I want to get done, but when you're driving a truck with heavy amounts of water in the back, it's not just the weight, it's the weight moves, and it can affect the way a truck handles. So you got to be careful about that. I wouldn't want to drive, 5-hour drive down to Freeport or Surfside or whatever and have all that water in the back of my truck. But there's plenty of places to fill up with down there. So I would totally drive down there with it empty, fill it up. When you're on the beach, sand gets in your ass crack, your ears, your face, your mouth, your feet, everywhere. And all you want to do is rinse off with fresh water. Imagine having 75 to 100 gallons of water on the tailgate of your truck in a situation where you need to clean, do dishes, whatever like that. Friggin' badass. These things are awesome. And in the write-up, I even break it down. You would think, since I recommend IBCs for permanent installation, they must cost less per gallon. Guys, I ran a check in my market with cleaned out, good quality 330-gallon IBCs in my market. They're 54 cents a gallon is what it comes out to. There's a link right there to the Craigslist listing. $54 for a 100-gallon barrel. It's the same price per gallon. So they're very cost-effective too. The reason I recommend the IBCs for permanent installation, they'll last forever. I don't know how long these things will last, but it's not going to be forever. Right. I mean, it is in the end, it's a flexible, soft thing. It's more of a flexibility thing. Small suburban backyards and stuff. It's, you could set one up on every downspout and have plenty of irrigation for small gardens and stuff like that. Anyway, check it out. Thank you guys for tuning in today. I will catch you tomorrow. What we're going to talk about tomorrow, I don't have a clue. I have no idea what we're doing this week. I know we have a great interview this week, but I don't even know who it's with, and this is not my paperwork for it. So tune in tomorrow for something new. It will be a live stream. Take care, guys. Catch you later.